Please listen carefully.
Hello, universe, and welcome to the Optimist Daily Update. I'm Amelia Buckley.
And I'm Summers McKay.
We're part of the team behind the Optimist Daily, making solutions the news. We bring you reader-funded solutions news every day in order to change the tenor of news media, social media, and the direction of your day to one focused on solutions.
7 days a week, we publish positive news stories written by award-winning journalists and delivered online to your inbox and through our social channels. And also, we are sharing these solutions in a commute-worthy, walk-worthy, home office-worthy, TGIF-worthy podcast. Today is Friday, the 20th of August, 2021. Hello, Amelia. How are you?
Good morning. I am doing well. Kristy is on vacation, so I am back on the pod and excited to start my morning with actually a little interview today.
I know, we are. We are going to get to our interview. We are going to get to the Optimist Daily Update Challenge. We have, I guess, last weekend, you and Kristy did the Optimist Daily Update Challenge. This weekend, it's going to be you and me. But one thing that's really kind of fun is that our listeners have started to join in on the challenges. So if you don't know what that is, stay tuned till the end of this episode, and you too can participate in our weekend adventure. Now, I feel like, Amelia, we should just get right into it because you and I are kind of groupies of the interview subject and interviewee that we have today. As we all know, I'm a big fan of water solutions and treating wastewater and ensuring we have circularity around water systems. This topic we actually not only covered on the podcast, but it was also a really, really successful story on Optimist Daily and through our social channels. So what are we doing today? Who do we have and what are we talking about?
Well, this morning we are interviewing Greg Johnson, and he is the CEO of Aquapor, which, if you guys remember, we talked about their porous pavement solution, I think a couple weeks ago. And Greg is committed to helping solve issues surrounding water and utility infrastructure. And as I said, he's currently the co-founder and CEO of AquiPor Technologies. He has experience starting and running early stage companies in the stormwater and construction materials space. And he's been involved with Aquapor since its earliest stages. We're welcoming him onto the pod. He describes himself as a rational optimist, which excites us. And he believes that our grandest challenges can be solved with the right combo of technology, people, and capital. So welcome to the pod, Greg.
Thank you very much. I am honored to be on here.
So why don't you get started by just telling us a little bit about yourself and what Aquapor is for our listeners who aren't sure.
Sure. So I guess the best way to start is Aquapor was really the brainchild of seeing cities and developers struggle with on-site stormwater management. And so this was probably like 10 years ago. My co-founder Kevin and I started our first company. We saw this huge need that cities had in regard to actually managing stormwater right on site. So as you may know, our cities are pretty much caked over an impervious surface area, concrete, whether it's sidewalks, streets, rooftops. We have a lot of impervious surface area in our cities. And so every time it rains, that immediately creates stormwater runoff. And so cities are always looking for innovative ways to be able to capture and infiltrate, water right where it falls. And so that was the brainchild. We saw this huge need, and we actually started our first company importing a water pervious paving tile from overseas. We were super naive and ambitious. We did not know what we were doing. We just saw this neat product, and we knew there was a market for this. So we started importing it. That business model was atrocious. It was really heavy material, trying to ship it halfway across the world. It was expensive. Quality control was horrible. And all along, we knew we wanted to own our own technology and be able to manufacture domestically. And so, long and short, I think it was 2015, we met a material scientist who today is our chief technologist, and he started prototyping a new type of pervious concrete basically for us. And we were blown away by it, and the rest is history. We've been developing this technology ever since.
When you guys saw the need, Greg, where were you? Like, paint a picture, because you've got developers, you live in a place that has a lot of rain, a little rain? Kind of paint a visual picture for what does the need look like when cities are expanding or developing?
Yeah, Spokane, we're in Spokane, Washington, and Spokane doesn't get a lot of rain, but we get enough rain where it can become an issue if, you're a property owner or a developer, especially kind of in the urban core, where
Hmm.
you have to, in the state of Washington, our stormwater requirements are pretty stringent, which they should be, but uh, these developers were required to have some type of stormwater facility on their property. And what it became was, or what's popular, were sort of these big bioswales, these big grassy swale areas, in a parking lot. And what
Right.
that does is it
Yeah.
takes up usable space. So it could be another couple extra parking spots, or it could actually affect the footprint of your building. And
Hmm.
so what we said was, can we actually provide a solution that offers stormwater management without sacrificing that usable space? And so that's really been kind of I guess, the impetus for developing this, permeable surface technology.
So cool. So
Very
cool.
cool. And then I know that you guys emphasize there's other porous pavement technologies on the market. What makes your model different than the other ones? I know that you emphasize that it doesn't have any Portland cement or traditional cement technology in it.
Yeah, that's a big deal for us. And it's sort of a twofold difference. Typical permeable pavement, whether it's pervious concrete or porous asphalt, those technologies rely on very large void space throughout the material for water permeability. And so, in fact, it's kind of referred to, pervious concrete's referred to as like Rice Krispie treat material because it almost looks like a Rice Krispie treat. The problem with that is, dirt, debris, and sediment easily gets into those voids, and over time, it will clog that system up.
Hmm.
Our technology is a chemical technology approach that gets submicron porosity throughout the material. And so what this basically means is the pore size is so small that dirt, debris, even a grain of pollen gets filtered onto the surface, and it still allows water to go through it. And so what this provides is a much easier to maintain product that can be maintained with just a normal vacuum sweep or street cleaning equipment. And then you hit on something that's very important to us. We don't use any Portland cement in our mix design. Portland cement's extremely pollutive and
Okay, so remember that we have non-cement experts listening to this.
okay.
Give us like a just teeny tiny primer on what is Portland cement and why you wouldn't want to use it.
Well, Portland cement, I think the easiest way, in fact, I'll go as far to say Portland cement is like a magical material. If you think about how easy it is to work with and the fact that, it actually has produced amazing concrete structures since, the 1800s, but it's sort of a 19th and 20th century solution. Well, it's actually contributed to cooking the planet. And the reason being is you end up mining limestone, which is part of the process that goes
Hmm.
into basically a kiln that gets heated at, I think, like 2400 degrees Fahrenheit, takes extreme amount of energy, and then it off gases a horrendous amount of CO2 in the process. And
Mm.
so there's a big push now for, cement alternatives, and there's some good solutions out there. I don't know if any one of them is it. And we'd like to think that at least for permeable material, our solution is it. We use a compound that's considered like a food grade type material. I won't get into what it is because it's proprietary, but we kind of pride ourselves on having an inherently green building material. So
Okay.
yeah.
Gotcha. And then I know that you guys have discussed how your pavement can be applicable both in cities where you have water scarcity and you have flooding occurring. And with climate change, that's going to be an increasing concern for a greater number of cities across our planet. How does porous pavement apply to both drought-stricken cities and cities that are seeing an increase in rainfall?
It's a great question. I think for cities that are seeing increased amounts of rainfall, it's obviously going to help mitigate the amount of stormwater runoff pollution that gets into our system, as well as mitigate the impacts of urban flooding. We tell people, because we get inbound calls and emails and, over social media from people in like New Orleans all the time. And they're like, we need to pave the whole city with this material. And maybe that's true. I think we could help mitigate some of those impacts. We're not the full solution, though. We just want to
Well,
be a
we
part
talk
of the
about,
solution.
yeah, we talk about all the time that solutions aren't siloed, right? So the Aquapor acts in concert with other solutions to
Absolutely.
solve some of these bigger infrastructure challenges.
Yep, that's exactly right. And I would say in like the American West, where we're going through basically a mega drought, where this material and this solution could have an impact is obviously now when you get any rainfall, you want to be able to capture and get that water back into the ground naturally. You don't want any of that water wasted. So that'd be one piece of the puzzle. And then the other piece of the puzzle is we actually just got a patent approval on a system that can take totally cleaned wastewater or gray water and actually redistribute it. Okay, so envision this. You have a treatment plant that right now is discharging clean water into, say, a river or an ocean bay, as part of the system. We have a patent that actually takes this cleaned water and brings it back up through our system to get it back into the ground. And the whole purpose of this is to recharge aquifers rather than send it out to rivers and oceans and streams. Let's get it back into the ground.
Right, right.
Yep.
Well, and that's something that people, there's different regulations based on where you live, on whether or not you can collect or use gray water, collecting rainwater. And the notion that so much of what we've done to our, in our urban environments is created spaces and places that it just goes back to rivers and then into oceans. That's not actually how Earth is supposed to work, right? This water that comes down in rain should be absorbed by the ground, refilling aquifers. The water needs to be put back into the system. And when I first moved here, there was large development. I moved to Austin, Texas, and there was a large development that was trying to put their gray water without proper real treatment processes directly into the ponds and creeks around where I live. And what I really was struggling with, and what I really want to work with developers where I live, is how do we use that wastewater, turn it into gray water, and make it irrigation for all of these great big green spaces so that we do put it back into the ground. And I think that that's something that people might not fully, recognize, that actually watering some of these big open green spaces refills aquifers.
Absolutely. You're 100% right about that. And I think our engineering community is really smart. And I think what they need are continued the advancements of technologies and new approaches. I think we get stuck in, everyone does really, you get stuck in sort of doing things the way they've always been done. And there's a path dependency on behalf of cities and even engineers that I think is going to change now because of suddenly, this climate crisis, let's just call it what it is. It's a climate crisis, is suddenly like apparent. And whereas a couple years ago, even it was like talked about, but people weren't really feeling the effects of it. Now I think it's on.
It's inescapable.
Yeah. That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
And this has been a long time in the making for you guys. I think you've been working on Aquapor since 2012. Are you guys in the process of testing your pavement anywhere right now? I mean, you don't have to tell us where, but I'm curious if you guys are trialing it and the results that you're seeing.
Yes. So, and actually Aquapor, we've been at this since 2016. So 12 was our first little,
Your first, the
yeah,
import
brainchild
company, right?
yeah, our first little brainchild. But yes, so right now our plan is to actually install a neighborhood scale project mock-up, and we're going to do it in Spokane. And we've actually started the civil construction piece of it very recently. And so we're hoping to have at least the permeable aspect and sort of the stormwater aspect of the project complete later this fall. And there will be a section of that project that gets monitored for what's called TAPE protocol. And TAPE is Treatment Assessment Protocol through the Department of Ecology here in Washington State. And without getting like into the boring details, it's basically a process that tests material for water quality. And it's our understanding that there's been no permeable pavement in the history of the world that's been able to make it through the paces of this regulatory testing. So we're hoping to be the first.
It's pretty exciting. That's I was walking with a neighbor today, and we were talking about how we needed, certain kinds of drainage in our yards, and I could see Aquapor having not only industrial use but also just residential use. And I think it's a really, really exciting trajectory for your business. What's next for you guys?
Well, we're pilot manufacturing our material here in Spokane, and we are slowly and surely adding sort of value added partners, whether they're large civil contractors, licensed manufacturers, other pieces of sort of the value chain. And we're doing all this while simultaneously we actually have a crowd fund open right now where we're raising just under $4 million. And all of these proceeds are basically going to be going toward scaling everything up. And so scaling up manufacturing, getting this project mock-up in the ground, and then basically expanding our market presence. We're super excited about it. We like the crowdfunding route because it lets everyday investors get in on what we're doing. And you'd be amazed at the passion that just normal retail investors have for this. And so it's not, just wealthy venture capitalists or, institutional investors that are getting in on this. Like, they're everyday people that have a passion for actually bringing these solutions to life. And so we're in the midst of that right now. And yeah, just getting ready to scale everything up.
Really interesting. So on the Optimist Daily Update, we pride ourselves in introducing ourselves to our guests and letting our readers know a little bit more about them and our listeners. So we're curious, what does a lifelong entrepreneur do in his free time?
Gosh, that's a good question. What do I do?
And we know that's like a double-edged sword question because we are all entrepreneurs, and then it's like free time. What on earth is that? But who is this Greg Johnson person who's been, super informational and educational to talk to? But who's the guy behind all of this wisdom?
Yeah, I spend most of my free time with my kids. I have 3 little girls, 10, 8, and almost 4 years old. And
that is your free time.
that is my free time, and
Exactly.
and I love it. I love it.
Yes.
And one thing like I'm working on is being obviously more like present in the moment all the time with them. But I spend a lot of time with them, and then other than that, like in the summer, we'll be out at the nearest lake or hiking. We try to take advantage of the outdoors here, and that's about it. I play a little bit of golf, but I'm horrible.
Very cool. Okay, so the answer might be your kids, might not. What is making you optimistic today? That's a question we ask all our guests.
Yeah, definitely my kids, but also the work that folks like you guys are doing. So I think there is a lot of hope. I know it can get gloomy if you read headline news and all these different things, the world's falling apart, but then I see, some of the stuff that you ladies are talking about, what you're writing about. I see what some other entrepreneurs throughout the world are doing to bring technology solutions and better ways of doing things to the world. That gets me super excited. And then sports gets me excited. I like,
Ooh.
sports.
What kind of sports? Which sports?
Well, I'm a basketball guy at
Got it.
heart.
Mm-hmm.
But I also love NFL football, and we have, obviously that season coming up. So
Yeah.
I get excited about that. And then, yeah, what else? I mean, there's a lot to be excited about and optimistic about. I would just say people like all of us that are trying to do, well in the world.
Committing, yeah, really committing to make the world a better place. And we're really grateful that you read the Optimist Daily. You may have heard we do a challenge, and I guess you definitely heard it because I'd said it at the beginning of this podcast. But each week we do a challenge, sort of taking on some of our favorite stories from the Optimist Daily for the week. Did you happen to have a favorite story that you read on the Optimist Daily this week?
I think I listened to, I think it was yesterday's episode about litter collectors.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is actually awesome. I want to give my own quick story on this. This is before I listened yesterday, and I was walking my dog and I just see litter everywhere, and I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, God, why do people litter and they don't pick up, their dog poop, and I'm like kind of like mad about it. And then I'm walking back and it dawned on me, like, I'm just going to bring a bag and I'm going to have my kids come with me. And we're going to do, when we walk the dog, we're going to do a little litter pickup just to try to keep like the neighborhood clean. And then I listened to that and I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah. This was a sign.
That's totally a sign. That's funny.
Great.
Okay, well, we had, just to do a quick review on what the stories were, but because I think I know what our challenge is going to be this weekend, Amelia, but
I know, and Greg unprompted kind of gave us a perfect cue for it also.
Exactly. But in all fairness, let's just do a recap, right? On Monday, we talked about climate awakenings, join the climate conversation to deal with stress and anxiety. Tuesday, we talked about period poverty donations and night skies, watching night skies from a dark place. Wednesday was, in fact, all about litter, right? And litter and bears. Thursday's episode, we did, in fact, talk about the 21 orgasms for men, 21 ejaculations for prostate health. And then, yeah, today we are on porous pavement, which I'm not 100% sure any one of us could effectively take on that challenge.
Definitely not as well as Aquapor is, so we'll leave it to them.
Exactly. I think we'll leave that in Greg's court. But while I think men across the country are perhaps celebrating the prostate health article, we're certainly seeing it go wild on social. I don't think we can commit to that over a 3-day period of time. I think that's not particularly realistic. But I do think we could all commit to picking up some litter over the weekend.
I'm up for it.
Are you going to do it? Greg, you're going to join us. It's a 3-way party here. I am going to order one of those litter picker-uppers. And yes, I'm going to order it from Amazon. So I probably am like creating as much of a problem as I am solving. But I'm going to order a 2-pack and give one to a neighbor. And I am going to go to that great big parking lot over by our local HEB, and I am going to pick up some litter this weekend. And I will, in fact, share it on my social media. So you can check it out at my Instagram on Summers McKay, or you can see it on the Optimist Daily Instagram stories over the weekend or on Monday when our social media team puts it out. But yeah, and Amelia, I fully expect pictures of you picking up litter. And Greg, if you want to be on the feed, we'll put you in there too.
Absolutely, I'm in. I'm 100%
I'll be out there.
in.
I think this is a good one. I love when all things collide into like the perfect Optimist Daily Update challenge. And if you're a listener and you're going to do it too, feel free to send us your pictures picking up litter, editorial@optimistdaily.com. Greg, it has been a pleasure having this conversation today. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Well done on creating a climate-friendly solution that is helping manage stormwater and wastewater. We love Aquapor. We will be keeping an eye on you. Amelia, I think we should just take us home.
Thank you all for listening to the Optimist Daily Update. We promise to continue to share positive, solution-based stories with ideas on how you can participate in changing this world and ensuring it is changed for the good. We promise to cover the current events with accuracy, legitimate sources, and offer you the information needed most to chart new paths for all of us.
Please, as always, guys, consider becoming an emissary on the optimistdaily.com. We are reader-funded, reader-supported journalism, and we need members in order to keep doing what we do. Help us keep the Optimist Daily free to all who need it, supported by those who can, with a contribution of as little as $5 a month. Thank you for being optimists. Thank you for being determined, and have fun picking up trash this weekend, guys. We'll see you on Monday.
Thanks,
Bye.
ladies. You're rock stars.